there. We are joined now by Dr. TK Pooe, who is the Public Policy Specialist from Wits University School of Governance. Dr. TK, good to have you, and thank you very much for your time. The ANC in KwaZulu-Natal, first and foremost, choosing to bring the entire mass democratic movement to come and support the statement that they were about to make here. I mean, in a sense, almost saying, look, we don't want it to be our own thing because, again, we want it to come from a larger collective. Maybe it's a little bit more palatable for them at this particular point because they just can't bring themselves to criticizing former President Jacob Zuma.
Well, Susan speaking, thanks for having me. Yes, look, it's for KZN especially, because I think if we really have to analyze it over the weekend, the province or the region that really is most affected by it is KZN, so it makes sense that they bring everybody there. I think there's an organization called Social Research Foundation along those lines, actually put a survey in the year, and it kind of shows that, look, with a small sample size, and I'm not always one to like quoting them, but they kind of show that 80% of the people that they sample still have a high regard for President Jacob Zuma in the area of KZN. So it makes sense that they would bring let's say, a plethora of individuals there, because the individual who basically can say kind of changing the landscape of KZN politics does require I think all of them kind of have to come together to kind of show some form of unity, because he is a bit of a character who's larger than life in that province in particular.
111 years, they say, first time for a former president to announce a decision to vote for another party. Not only that, to mobilize for another party, saying clearly this is a move that is decampaigning the ANC, and one that sets former President Zuma as one who is divorcing the ANC, going on to say gross ill discipline, but coming short of saying he must be expelled. What do you read of that?
Well, I think, look, as fancy as it sounds to say 111 years, in truth, look, we kind of have to put it into context. South Africa has only had President Nelson Mandela, President Thabo Mbeki, and President Jacob Zuma, and obviously an interim president in the former President Kgalema Motlanthe, and the current president. So it's not really that long. Is it historic? Yes, but the argument can be made that, look, the problems of the ANC were always going to go in this direction as it relates to President Jacob Zuma. Whether positively or negatively, some see I think he was handled by the ANC. This was going to always be the road he was going to take. It's just that maybe, I guess, the form and the way that it's taken is not what they expected. And I think for us, we'd be lazy to simply fall into what we term the ANC politics. What we should be asking ourselves is to say, look, if the ANC is in such a situation, how then could they really come to the point 2024 and say, listen, we are this one united party, we've got solutions for the country, when even, remember the wording of President Jacob Zuma himself, he said, listen, it's not like I'm the only president who said that this current ANC is not working. Even my predecessor, President Thabo Mbeki, said the same thing. Yes, he's taken a very alternative route. But I think the bigger question which we as a populace should be asking, and those that study policy, is it's not so much the machinations of the ANC, but we should be asking is how is it that this party year in, year out fails to really put its house in order? And kind of explains where we are as a country when they're running government. Because if they really are failing at this level, the questions need to be asked about, listen, are they really the right cause for South Africans going forward?
So while we're there, let's talk about what the ANC wanting us to believe. So they are saying, yes, we can see these machinations and all these things that are currently happening. And when we look at the performance of the party, though, in the by-elections, the party is doing well. The ANC has been winning by-elections. In fact, it goes on to say that the ANC has been welcoming a lot of members from the opposition and other formations, and even those who have left who have decided to come back. So they are saying the party in the province is by and large very healthy.
No, I think that one we have to take with a pinch of salt. I mean, you only have to go to the IEC election. But look, I have to make the statement that probably this ANC leadership in KZN is probably one might argue one of the weakest that's ever come to the fore post 1994. And this is not only me. You have to just look at how many of the by-elections have lost to the IFP, because here we have to kind of compare apples to apples. And in certain regions, leading up to, especially the September September month, we saw a lot of people just simply choosing to vote for the IFP, another political party. Now, have they made a bit of a comeback? It's true in that, but we have to kind of look at it in the scope of the last year and a half. And a lot of the questions that are being asked of this ANC leadership has to look at the way that they've been reacting to some of the crises in KZN. One only has to look at what happened with the flood. Yes, the national government can be questioned, but the way in the manner in which this ANC leadership handled those things really has made a lot of citizens in KZN really question and ask, look, is this really the best that the ANC could give them when it comes to the leadership? And I think that question, just looking at the by-elections, not over a small period of the last 3 months, but a longer period, I think it's kind of tilting towards people saying, listen, you guys are not basically up to scratch.
Do you think this move by former President Jacob Zuma could have inadvertently, I suppose, bolstered the support for President Ramaphosa in KwaZulu-Natal, a province previously where, I mean, he was quite skeptical of going there. He had to really make sure that wherever he goes, he'll receive the right kind of reception. I'm saying that because now you're hearing more and more Mdolo, you're hearing more and more the chairperson as well now pushing President Ramaphosa as the commander-in-chief of the organization.
Look, I think within the current ANC, President Ramaphosa's, let's say, support is rock hard. There's nothing that's really going to change it. Now, I think the better way maybe to look at it is those that are outside the ANC, because you have to remember the ANC as a political party in KZN is one thing, the voting population is another. And from what we have seen, and as I said, going back over the last 2 years, and we can only use by-elections as a matrix, and we can only use, issues such as employment and unemployment as something we can really speak about. It's actually been quite weak, and a lot of citizens within that province are starting to ask the question that, listen, is this ANC up to scratch? That it happens to be President Ramaphosa is a by and by. It's just it's a fact of history. He is the president. So I really don't see it as being that clear cut. I just simply see it as, look, he happens to have a rock solid ANC in that province. There's no one outside of President Jacob Zuma, because he still is an ANC member. Last time, I think he told us when he spoke to the nation on Saturday, he's still an ANC member. Outside of him, there's no one else except for President Ramaphosa or President Zuma. So I kind of give him the sense that the whole of the ANC is going to be behind him. And now the reasons why they're going to be behind him, I think, are a bit more interesting, because there is a possible reality that this ANC could actually be the one that loses the province after so many years of the ANC being in charge. And I think that's where you're going to see the ANC come together in KZN for that reason. But that might not be enough to convince citizens of the province that these people are up to task.
The other question, of course, that is being addressed somewhat by this particular gathering, especially from the deputy chairperson in the province, is the question of the politics of individualism or cult leadership. They're saying their support, or even previous support of former President Jacob Zuma, should never be misread as a promotion of some kind of cult leadership or politics of individualism. Is the ANC doing a good job in distancing itself from that brand of politics?
No, the ANC has failed dismally at this. You only have to go back to some of the documents leading up to, I think, the Stellenbosch conference, or the Northwest conference in 1999, where it was already starting to be seen that, listen, individuals were really becoming to the fore within the ANC. So I heard the last tippings of I think what they had said, that saying, listen, we had to support him in 2005. Some might argue that was the camel that broke the ANC straw, where an individual, namely in this historical situation, President Jacob Zuma, was elevated above the political party. We started to see his shirts. We started to even see elements of where individuals started to associate him with specifically this province. So I think it's a bit of a white lie, if there's such a thing there, where we have to say, listen, they did elevate him above the political party. And today, and what happened over the weekend, is just a full manifestation of when you put an individual above a political party, when they have so much gravitas, and one might argue it seems to be bigger than the party, this is what tends to happen. So I think in that regard, they are not quite telling the truth. They did put him above the political party, and this is what has happened.
Yeah, so I mean, how would you read them in this whole, even the fact that National at this particular point is actually not pronounced, Province saying, well, President Zuma is an ex-official member of the ANC, which means he belongs now to the NEC of the ANC. So they definitely are not the ones who are going to be dealing with him. So it's going to be a problem, so to speak, of the NEC, is what they are saying in simple terms. But is this is reflecting an ANC as a whole, not just in KZN, that has no capacity to deal with a Jacob Zuma, as you put it?
Yes, in this regard, I think the PC we sort of have to ignore in this, because this now becomes a constitutional issue. And I was just going through the ANC constitution, the different rules, specifically Rule 4 and 5, which speaks about membership and duties of a member. So, look, from what we've seen and how President Ramaphosa tends to deal with issues, that he's quite lethargic, but he eventually does make pronouncements. And I think what they're trying to find is a legal issue. We could say, listen, he's still an ex officio, and he still has rights and privileges sometimes when he goes to the NEC. But, historically, how do you treat somebody who's during this position where the ANC is going to be preparing for an election, is going to have inside information, and they've already declared that, listen, he's going to vote for someone else, and he's already endorsed the different political parties. So I think they're just trying to find within the ANC constitution a means to kind of say, listen, let's hold him to this. And that's one thing. Then it's going to come the other thing, which is to say, politically, even if we can have some legal standing to say, listen, you can't play both sides. You can't hedge your bet. You need to kind of come out and say, you're fully ANC or you're going to step back fully. So it's going to be one thing to find the legal issue, then it's going to be the issue of, are they going to be politically brave enough? And this is where, if they had a better quality of ANC leadership in KZN, this would not be an issue. But unfortunately, because President Jacob Zuma has been elevated over the years as this bigger-than-life personality in the province, there is no equivalent for him. Therefore, it does become a national issue. And then the question seems to be how is the national NEC going to handle this when one might have to be honest, they've not really handled the issue of President Jacob Zuma well over the years.
Dr. TK Pooe, much appreciated. Thank you very much for coming on there with us and for your intervention. Right, Newsfeed.